Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a framework that can literally change the way you solve problems. Whether you're trying to build a new company or just, make your day-to-day life a little easier. It's called design thinking. And to really get why it's so powerful, we have to start with just one single, kind of shocking number. Okay, so here's that number, 95%. Just let that sink in for a second. What in the world could that be? It feels huge, right? Like something big is going on here. Yep, 95% is the failure rate for new products. Think about that. With all our technology, all our fancy business degrees, all our brilliant ideas, we get it wrong almost every single time. So the really big question is, why? Why are we so bad at innovation?
Well, to figure out the solution, we have to diagnose the problem first. And it turns out, the problem is this old, broken way we've all been taught to think about projects for a really long time.
For about the last century, most organizations have been stuck using this super rigid step-by-step process. People call it the waterfall model. And sure, it looks all neat and logical on a whiteboard, but in the real world, it is deeply flawed.
I mean, look at the difference here. It is night and day. The old way, it starts with an idea. And let me tell you, that is the worst place to start, because you fall in love with your own idea right away. The process is rigid, full of these gates that are basically designed to kill projects. And here's the craziest part. The customer, the actual person you're supposed to be helping, they are the absolute last step. By the time they see anything, it's way too late.
And this old way of thinking, it costs us big time. The whole system is built to avoid tiny little failures, but in doing that, it sets us up for these massive, epic fails. It's what statisticians call a type 2 error. Basically, the mistake of not doing something you absolutely should have done. And the perfect example? Bill Gates himself said missing out on Android was his biggest mistake ever. The system killed a world-changing idea before it even had a chance.
Okay, so if that's the broken way, what's the alternative? How do we fix this? Well, this is where design thinking comes in. It's a completely different and way more powerful human-first approach.
At its heart, the definition is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Design thinking is a human-centric, systematic model of problem solving. Now, there are three really key parts to that definition, so let's take them one by one.
First, and this is the most important thing, it's human-centric. This just means you obsess over the person who's actually going to use whatever you're making. The best example is a Lego brick. You don't need instructions, right? You just get it. It feels intuitive. Why? Because it was designed for a human hand, for a human brain. And that's the key takeaway here. You are not solving a problem, you are solving somebody's problem. There's a real person at the end of all this.
All right, second, it's systematic. A lot of us think of innovation as this chaotic lightning in a bottle thing, just a lucky accident. But what this framework does is give you a repeatable process. It's disciplined. And that discipline, it doesn't crush creativity, it gives it a direction. It turns that random lightning strike into something you can actually count on. And number three, the whole point is problem solving. We're not just talking about making a better app here. This is about rewiring your brain to become a better problem solver, period. It works for tiny daily annoyances all the way up to massive global challenges. It really is a whole new mindset. Okay, so that's the philosophy. But how does it actually work in practice? Let's get into the nitty-gritty. And the big thing to remember is this is not a straight line. It is a flexible, repeating loop.
So the loop has 5 steps. Step 1 is inspire. This is where you find your why. Notice you don't even have an idea yet, just a purpose. Then you move to empathize and define. This is huge. You go out and you talk to real people to figure out what they actually need. After that, it's time to ideate. And here, the only rule is quantity over quality. You want hundreds of ideas, even the crazy ones. No bad ideas at this stage. Then comes my favorite part, prototype and test. You build super fast, super cheap versions of your ideas, and you see what happens. You learn. And only then, only when you have real proof that something is working, do you hit the final step, scale. You launch it and you grow it. And if you want to understand the real power of prototyping, just look at Sir James Dyson. Get this. He made 5,127 prototypes of his vacuum before he got it right. Now, he wasn't failing 5,000 times. He was learning 5,000 times. Every single one of those failures was just a step closer to the answer. That is the build, test, learn loop in action.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is cool for vacuums and tech startups, but what if I told you this exact framework was used to solve one of the biggest political problems of the 20th century?
Believe it or not, Mahatma Gandhi's campaign for Indian independence follows this loop almost perfectly. Think about it. His inspire moment? Getting thrown off that train in South Africa. That was his why. That lit the fire. Then he went into the empathize phase, traveling all over India, dressed simply, just to listen and understand the real problems of everyday people. Then he ideated. He took this ancient idea of nonviolence and asked, how can we apply this to a national movement? And what was his prototype? The Dandi Salt March. It was a test, a small-scale experiment, and guess what? It worked brilliantly. So what did he do? He scaled it. He applied that method across the entire country, which ultimately led to independence. It's just an incredible example.
So, the big question is, how can you start using this? Well, remember, it is not just a checklist, it's a mindset. It's a whole new way of looking at problems. So let's boil it down to the core principles you can start applying, like right now.
First, always, and I mean always, focus on the human. Second, learn to embrace failure. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the sooner you'll succeed. Third, think about what you can take away, not just what you can add. Simplicity is genius. Next, think with your hands. Stop just talking and start building. Sketch it out, make a rough model, anything to make your idea real. Also, go broad before you go narrow. Generate tons of options before you ever pick one. And finally, and this one is maybe the most important of all,
Sell the problem, not the solution. If you can get people to fall in love with the problem, to agree that this is something that must be solved, your solution will practically sell itself. But if they don't care about the problem, they will never care about your brilliant answer.
And that's pretty much it for our deep dive today. Because the real magic here isn't in the 5 steps on a chart. It's in the way it completely changes your perspective. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. What's that one impossible problem in your job, in your life, or in the world that maybe, just maybe, you'll look at a little differently now?